But Lindsay, the last time you were here, we were talking about those internal voices. We were talking about the need to allow ourselves to dream. We talked about the critic, the voice of the critic that oftentimes shows up to cut down our belief in those dreams. And in the 2 weeks since you were last here, we were supposed to be thinking about, tapping into those dreams, dreaming big. We had Pisces and Jupiter, all of these things happening around us. And you left us with the information or the insight that said our inner critic is our biggest hater. And we had some assignments, some work we were supposed to do. So it's been a couple of weeks since you were here. I need some insight. Spring is about to sprung. I'm excited. The sun is making the melanin pop. I'm feeling like nature has some real wisdom for us today. So we needed to have you on again to really think about what it means to not just dream, but to manifest those dreams. Talk with us about the role of dream work, of opening up ourselves to manifesting the dreams that we have, both great and small.
Yeah, so I love that that we left with this idea of dreaming big and tapping into those dreams. We talked a bit about that new moon in Pisces and it being Pisces season, which is very dreamy, and also using this time, whether we're into astrology or not, to just reconnect to what our dreams are about. And as we know, in all African cosmogonies, there's polarity, that nothing exists without its opposite. And so the full moon today is in Virgo. And Virgo brings about that part of ourselves that is practical, grounded, and down to earth. So after spending the last couple of weeks of dreaming and remembering our dreams and tapping into that dream and that big vision, here comes the other side of our psyche that's like, well, what about? And how you're gonna? And what's the next step? And so, as always, we're thinking yes, and we're thinking yes, big dream, and how am I going to actually manifest it and make it happen? And the cosmos are on our side this month as we do that work. So
that's good, because if the cosmos were not on our side while we're doing this work, that would be a problem. So it's good to know that we're doing this in alignment with the same time the stars are sort of in tune with that vibrant, that frequency, if you will.
Which means that if we are hearing that voice, especially when we dare to dream, right? When we dare to dream, there's always going to be that other voice that pops up and says, hey, did you think about, and are you gonna, and all of those things. And so to not be surprised while we're dreaming if those voices come up for us. And I wanted to take some time today to think a little bit about where some of those voices come from as we do this work, as we recommit. And so one thing that we talked about was the inner critic. I want to talk a little bit about the external critics. The naysayers, we're kind of, for the most part, we're pretty good at seeing who the haters are, seeing who the people are who are not really team us, who don't really have our back. So that is not so much a big deal. It can be painful. We see it. The kids that were laughing at Einstein, for example, that you talked about.
Yes.
Okay, clear haters. We know that they might hurt, it might sting, but we can kind of block them out. What's harder is to block out the voices of haterism from people who love us and who we love.
Ooh.
So I want to take a minute to think about how that shows up for us, and where that's coming from. So a few things to think about when we're confronting that resistance, or even the person that's like, well, maybe, but you can't, or, how that shows up is that remembering that those voices are often coming from a place of love. So these are going to be the people that are probably closest to us. They don't realize that they're stomping on our dream. They're not trying to stomp on our dream. But what they're trying to do is protect us from one of the most difficult human emotions to deal with, which is disappointment.
Oh, wow. So you mean when I share my dream with my best cousin friend, and best cousin friend is like, girl, you can't do that. You got kids. You can't do that. You got 11 jobs already. You mean that's it? But what if that person always plays that role? They never really support my dream. They're always stomping on it. Lindsay, are they always trying to protect me from disappointment? How should I read that when that seems to be the role they constantly play?
Well, I would say first things first is that every relationship has a place. And so if this person is always stomping on your dream and always that voice, maybe they're not the person to talk to about your dream. So sometimes it's getting really clear that there are some people that you love a lot, that you just move in silence with.
Wow.
I'm going to send you an invitation to the celebration, but I'm not going to talk to you about the process because you don't know how to necessarily support me in the ways that I need.
Damn. So, sister, cousin, friend, you can come to the celebration event. You're not gonna be on the planning committee. We're not gonna have you like in because you never like the flowers. Everybody on the planning committee like you always trying to stomp on the decorations. We just have you show up and experience the beauty. But I can't talk with you about my dream as it's manifesting because you don't have the ability to hold that dream up, perhaps. Is that a generous way of trying to allow them to still have space in our lives without giving them access to the keys to destroy our dreaming capacity?
Absolutely. And what I found in my process is that I have a lot of people that I love dearly. I have a small number of people that I share my biggest dreams with.
Wow.
Because of that desire to protect one another. And so sometimes the people around you, because they're trying to protect you, their vision for you is limited by their own vision, their own experience. So it comes out a lot, in dating. You might talk to a friend about a person you're dating and they might say something like, well, ain't no good men or no good women out there. It's like, it's that, don't get too excited because it could still go wrong. You have your friends that might do that. Another way that it shows up is that it can come out in a sneaky way. Maybe they're not outwardly critiquing you, but maybe they're asking questions that plant seeds of doubt. And I think that example that you gave earlier with Mary, she's shining, she's in arguably the height of her career. She's been in this game a long time. And then now someone is going to ask her a question and says, well, what if you're going to regret how you're living now?
You sure you don't want them kids? We
sure?
know you really might want some kids. Right?
And it takes some strength of character. It takes some strength of vision to stay clear and committed to your path when other people are planting those seeds of doubt, even if innocently or unintentionally. So that's something to look out for, not just how people critique what you're doing, but how they question what you're doing or make you question what you're doing as a sign that, okay, like maybe I'm going to be a bit more selective about what I share and who I share it with and how I share it and when I share it and all of those things. It's treating our vision as if it's sacred.
But then, there's this desire, particularly if these are people that you have close relationship with, we want to well, maybe this is just me. Something good happens and I want to go tell my besties. I want somebody to up this with me and enjoy this moment with me. But what do I do if my friendship circle or my circle of confidants are kind of more filled with the critic voices than the dream supporting voices? And that, quite frankly, there have been phases of my life where I noticed I'm surrounded by people who don't believe in me. What do I do if my friendship circle doesn't really have the elements of the dream supporters as much as it has a lot of dream killers?
Yeah, I think that's where we start mixing up the relationships, right? Not everybody is to do everything. So the person that is more of a critic, they might give me some useful things to think about. And there may be a point in my process where I need that critique, right? I have some friends that I'll call and they'll be like, well, what's on the menu? And did you think about this? I need that because I wasn't thinking about that. But I know that to not do that at the front end when I'm planning the budget, for example, because then they're going to be like, well, you can't afford the blah, 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 And so it's working through the resentment that comes from knowing like this is a person that I love and who loves me. So remembering that they're coming from a place of love, which means they are also going to celebrate with you hard, right? So the person that maybe can't see your vision or wants you to be careful or wants you to look out for something, it doesn't mean that they're not a friend. It just means that they're not the friend for this particular, they're not the go-to person. Maybe the person you need to go to is the person who has the experience and the resources to support you in manifesting that thing. Wow. Maybe the person you go to is the person who is going to be like, you're the best no matter what you say, because if that's what you need, that's what you need. So it really always comes back down to knowing yourself. It's never about what the other person is saying or doing. It's always about knowing yourself and being in the proper alignment with what you and your soul needs and who you're going to for those things.